She looks just like her." Those were the first words Madame Adewale whispered the moment she saw Mirabel. Mirabel didn't hear her say it. She was too busy staring at the giant house in front of her. It had tall gates, shiny black cars, and glass windows, so clean they looked invisible. She had never seen anything like it in her life. The air smelled like flowers and money. At just 14 years old, Mirabel had been sent from her small village to Lagos to work as a maid. Her mother had cried the day she left. "You must behave," she told her. "This is your only chance." So Mirabel stood straight and quiet, her hands shaking as she clutched her small bag of clothes. The gate opened slowly. 2 security guards stepped aside. A tall driver led her to the front door. That's when Madame Adewale saw her. She froze. Her teacup slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Everyone turned. "Madam, are you okay?" the driver asked. But Madame didn't answer. She just stared at the girl, at her round face, her wide brown eyes, the small scar on her chin. "Who sent you here?" Madame asked, her voice shaking. "The village woman," the driver replied. "Her name is Grace. She said the girl's name is Mirabel. Her mother can't afford to take care of her. She begged us to take her in." Madame blinked, slowly, like she had seen a ghost. "I see," she whispered, turning away. The house was like a dream. Marble floors, paintings on the walls, chandeliers that sparkled like ice. But even with all the beauty, Mirabel felt cold. The house was too quiet, the family too distant. The other staff barely spoke to her. Her room was small, tucked behind the kitchen. No windows, 1 light bulb, a mattress on the floor.
She didn't complain.
She worked hard. She mopped the floors, scrubbed the toilets, polished the staircase. But every time she passed Madame, something strange happened. Madame stared at her, too long, too hard, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. One night, as Mirabel was cleaning the study, she saw a photo on the bookshelf. A silver-framed picture of Madame, her husband, and a baby girl. The baby had her face. Same eyes, same chin, same soft curls. Mirabel stepped back. Her heart started beating fast. "Is that me?" she whispered. Before she could think, the door creaked open. Madame stood there. "You shouldn't be in here," she said quietly. I was cleaning, Ma," Mirabel stammered. Madame walked slowly toward her. "That photo," she said, eyes locked on her. "Do you think she looks like you?" Mirabel didn't know what to say. "I don't know, Ma." Madame sighed and picked up the photo. She stared at it, then looked back at Mirabel. "She was my daughter. Her name was Amaka. She died when she was 2. Mirabel's heart dropped. "I'm sorry, Ma." Madame nodded, but didn't speak. Her eyes were wet. "You remind me so much of her," she said and walked away. That night, Mirabel couldn't sleep. She thought of the photo, of Amaka, of the way Madame looked at her. Could she really look that much like a dead girl? The next morning, she tried to ask the cook, Mama Keiji, about it. "Mama Keiji, did Madame have a daughter?" The woman looked up sharply. "Why are you asking that? I saw a photo. She said the girl died. Her name was Amaka." Mama Keiji's eyes darted to the hallway. "Don't ask questions, Mirabel. Just do your work and stay out of trouble. But listen to me. This house is full of secrets. Keep your head down, or you'll end up like the last maid." "The last maid?" "She asked too many questions," Mama Keiji whispered. "One day, she just disappeared." That evening, while scrubbing the tiles near the staircase, Mirabel heard voices upstairs. Loud ones. She shouldn't be here. It was a man's voice, angry, deep. "She has a right to stay." Madame shouted back. "You brought her into this house without telling me. Do you even know who she is?" "Maybe I do," Madame replied coldly. "Maybe that's exactly why she's here." There was silence. Then a slamming door. Mirabel quickly picked up her bucket and ran to the kitchen, her heart pounding. What were they arguing about? Was it her? Later that night, Madame came to her small room. She sat beside her on the bed, and looked into her eyes. "Mirabel," she said gently, "tell me again. Who is your mother?" "Her name is Mama Ada. She sells beans by the roadside in the village." Madame's hands trembled. "Did she ever tell you anything about your birth?" Mirabel shook her head.
No.
"She just said I was a gift." Tears ran down Madame's cheeks. "So was Amaka," she whispered. She got up and left. Mirabel sat frozen, a strange feeling crawling up her spine. The next morning, something changed. Mirabel was called into the main living room. A man in a suit was sitting beside Madame. He looked serious, like a doctor or a lawyer. "We need to run a small test," Madame said softly. "What kind of test?" "A DNA test. Just a mouth swab. It won't hurt." Mirabel's throat went dry.
Why?
Madame smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Because I need to know the truth." Mirabel sat in the corner of the big sitting room, hands folded tightly in her lap. Her heart wouldn't stop pounding. The man in the suit, the one they called Dr. Fola, gently opened a long paper pouch. He pulled out a soft cotton swab. "This won't hurt," he said kindly. Mirabel opened her mouth. The doctor rubbed the swab inside her cheek, then sealed it in a small plastic tube. He placed the tube inside a white box and stood. "That's it," he said. "We'll get the results in a few days." Madame nodded, without smiling. Her eyes didn't leave Mirabel's face. That night, Mirabel could barely eat. She pushed her rice around the plate, her stomach in knots. Why were they testing her? What did they expect to find? She remembered Madame's words. "I need to know the truth." What truth? In the days that followed, the house grew tense. Madame barely spoke. Chief Adewale, her husband, stayed out late and didn't even greet Mirabel when he passed her. The other workers acted like nothing was wrong, but they glanced at her with strange, careful eyes. Something was coming. She could feel it. On the third night, Mirabel couldn't sleep. Her small room felt tighter than usual. The air was heavy. She needed answers. She needed someone to talk to. She slipped quietly out of bed and tiptoed toward the kitchen. Maybe Mama Keiji would be there. But as she passed the hallway, she heard voices from the study. Madame was inside. So was Chief Adewale. "We should have told her long ago," Madame said, her voice low and tired. "Told who?" Chief snapped. "The girl? The public? You want to destroy everything we built. She's our blood. She is your mistake." Mirabel stopped breathing. "Our mistake," Madame said firmly. "You were there. You signed the papers." Chief cursed under his breath. "We paid those people. The baby was gone. End of story." "No," Madame whispered. "She's alive. She's in this house. And she's looking at me with our daughter's eyes." Chief slammed something on the table. "And if the public finds out, we lose everything. Our name. Our legacy. Are you ready for that?" There was silence. Then a broken whisper from Madame. "She was stolen, Tund. Not dead. I won't lose her twice." Mirabel's knees buckled. She crawled back to her room, heart beating like thunder. Stolen? Their daughter? Was it her? 2 days later, the results came. Madame called her into the sitting room. Her hands trembled as she held the white envelope. Mirabel stood across from her. Chief Adewale sat stiffly, arms crossed. The air was sharp, like a knife about to drop. Madame opened the envelope slowly. Her eyes scanned the paper, then filled with tears. She looked up at Mirabel. "You are my daughter." The world fell silent. Mirabel blinked. "I don't understand." Madame reached for her hand. "Your name is not just Mirabel. When you were born, we named you Amaka Adewale. You were taken from the hospital. We were told you died, but it was a lie. Someone sold you." No, my mother. "She raised you," Madame said gently. "But she wasn't your birth mother." Mirabel's whole body went cold. "She called me her gift." Madame nodded, tears falling. "Because you were. A gift taken from me." Chief stood up, furious. "This changes nothing. That woman, she raised her. We paid to forget this pain. You can't drag the past back now." She's my child, Madam shouted. Then keep her in the shadows, he growled. You think the world will welcome this? A maid who becomes the daughter of billionaires? They'll call it madness. Mirabel stepped back, overwhelmed. Her voice trembled. So, what happens now? Madam turned to her, holding her hands tightly. Now, she said, we tell the truth. But the truth is never simple. And not everyone wants it told. Later that evening, someone slipped a letter under Mirabel's door. No name, just a sentence, written in red ink. Go back to the village, before they bury your truth again. The letter burned in her hands. Go back to the village, before they bury your truth again. Mirabel read it 5 times. She looked around the hallway, nothing. No footsteps. No voice. Just silence.
Cold and thick.
Someone in the house didn't want her here. Someone knew the truth and wanted it hidden. Madam knocked on her door that night. She looked tired, but her smile was soft. I know this is hard, she said, but I want you to feel safe here. Mirabel stared at her. So many questions buzzed in her mind. Why didn't you look for me before? She asked. Madam's eyes filled with pain. I thought you were gone. They told me you died. I cried every night for 2 years. Then your father made us leave the country. He said we needed to move on. Mirabel's voice cracked. But I was alive. Madam took her hands. And now you're back. And I won't lose you again. The next morning, Madam told the staff the truth. This is Mirabel, she said. But she is also Amaka, my daughter. The workers froze. The gardener dropped his watering can. The guards exchanged glances. And Mama Keji's eyes widened like she had seen a spirit. Chief Adewale was not there. Later that day, his car returned, but he didn't speak to anyone. Not even Madam. Things changed quickly. Mirabel was moved from her tiny room to a bright bedroom upstairs. She had soft bed sheets, curtains like clouds, and a balcony that looked over the city. But she felt like a bird in a glass cage. Some staff smiled at her now. Others avoided her completely. Mama Keiji warned her in the kitchen. Be careful, my dear. The truth may set you free, but it also makes enemies. Mirabel nodded slowly. I think someone already left me a warning. Mama Keiji's eyes darkened. What warning? Mirabel showed her the red letter note. Mama Keiji held it with shaking hands. This handwriting looks like, no, it can't be. What is it? Mirabel asked quickly. But Mama Keiji folded the note and shoved it deep into her wrapper. Let it go, she whispered. Some truths are better whispered than shouted. 2 days later, Chief called Mirabel to his office. The door clicked shut behind her. The room was dark, filled with books and shadows. Sit, he said coldly. Mirabel sat. He stared at her with eyes like frozen water. You're not Amaka, he said. She blinked. What? You're not my daughter. I don't care what any test says. My Amaka died. You're a problem, and you need to stop digging. Mirabel felt her chest tighten. I'm not digging. You're asking questions. Getting close to my wife. Turning the house upside down. I didn't ask to be brought here. No, he said quietly. But I can send you away. She stood up slowly. You can't hide this forever. The DNA test was controlled by your madam, he said with a smirk. What if it was a mistake? Mirabel's hands shook. Why are you so afraid of the truth? Chief stood, face dark. Because the truth ruined my life once. And I won't let it happen again. That night, Mirabel searched Madam's old boxes. In the bottom drawer of the bedroom cupboard, she found a yellow file. It had hospital papers, birth records, and adoption documents. Her name was there. Baby girl unnamed. Born on the same day as Amaka. Transferred to another clinic. Signed by a nurse named Grace Adeobi. Mama Ada, her mother. She ran to Madam. I found something, she whispered. Madam took the papers and read them with shaking hands. She lied to me, Mirabel said. Mama Ada wasn't my mother. She took me from the hospital. She signed these. Madam's eyes widened. Grace, Adeobi, That was my nurse. She kept me, Mirabel whispered. She sold me to the village. Madame broke down in tears. My God. But before they could say more, a loud crash came from downstairs.
Glass.
Shouting, running footsteps, then silence. A guard ran in, face pale. Chief Adewale has left. He took his passport and flew to Ghana. He said he won't be coming back. That night, Mirabel sat on the balcony, her head on Madame's shoulder. The city lights blinked in the distance like secrets. I still feel lost, she said. I know, Madame whispered, but you are home now. Mirabel nodded, but in her heart, she knew not all truths had been told yet. They called her Amaka now, not Mirabel, not the name she had grown up with, the name her village mother whispered when giving her warm yam at night, or when wrapping her in old cloth to protect her from rain. Now it was Amaka Adewale, the lost daughter of Lagos billionaires. But Mirabel didn't feel like a billionaire's daughter. She felt torn between two lives, and the truth was pulling her apart. Madame was kind. She bought Mirabel new clothes, a phone, and even got her a private tutor. She told her, "You can go to the best schools now. You'll have a future, a big one." But Mirabel couldn't stop thinking about Mama Ada. She had stolen her, lied to her, sold her, but she had also raised her, wiped her nose when she was sick, carried her on her back, prayed for her. The woman who birthed her gave her wealth. The woman who stole her gave her love. One morning, Madame found her sitting outside, looking at the sunrise. "You haven't touched your food," Madame said. "I miss her," Mirabel whispered. Madame nodded slowly. "I know. She broke the law, but she never made me feel unwanted." Madame took a deep breath. "Do you want to see her?" Mirabel looked up sharply. "You'll let me?" "She may have lied, but she gave you something I couldn't. I want you to have the chance to face her yourself, to ask the questions I never could." They drove to the village the next day.
It was dry season.
Dust flew behind the car like a trail of forgotten memories. When they arrived, children paused their games. Old women squinted from under mango trees. And there, outside a crumbling house, stood Mama Ada. She was older than Mirabel remembered. Her eyes were sunken. Her wrapper hung loose around her waist. She froze when she saw the car. Madame stepped out first. Then Mirabel. Mama Ada took a step back. "Mirabel? Is that you?" Her voice cracked. "I know everything," Mirabel said. Her heart was thudding in her ears. "You took me. You lied to me. You told me I was your child." Mama Ada fell to her knees. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take you. I was poor. I was hungry. Your nurse asked me to hold you for a minute, and then she vanished. I tried to return you, but your people were gone. The hospital said nothing. I didn't know what else to do." Tears fell down Mirabel's face. "Why didn't you tell me when I grew older?" "Because I was afraid. I loved you too much. You were all I had. You called me Mama, and I let it stay that way." Mirabel turned to Madame. "What happens to her now?" Madame's face was unreadable. "I should press charges. But I won't. Not yet. That choice is not mine alone anymore. It's yours." Mirabel stared at Mama Ada, the woman who had stolen her, but also saved her. "I don't forgive you," Mirabel said quietly. "Not yet." Mama Ada nodded. "I understand, but I'll visit," Mirabel said. "Sometimes." That evening, back in Lagos, the press exploded. Billionaire's missing daughter found alive after 14 years. Pictures of Mirabel, now Amaka, were everywhere. Her school announced a full scholarship. Interviews were requested. People called her a miracle. But behind the headlines was a storm. Chief Adewale's lawyers contacted them. They said he wanted nothing to do with the fake daughter story. He was threatening to fight the DNA test results in court. And that's when Madame handed Mirabel one final envelope. Inside was a second DNA result. Not from Lagos, but from Switzerland.
Clear.
Verified. 100% match. "Why didn't you show this before?" Mirabel asked. Madame smiled faintly. Because the truth doesn't always need to shout. Sometimes, it just waits for the right moment. 1 week later, Mirabel stood at the back of the compound, staring at her reflection in the water tank. She still wasn't sure who she was.
Not fully.
But she was sure of one thing. Blood never lies. But love is what saves. They said I was lucky. They said I was the billionaire's lost daughter. The one who had been found. But I didn't feel lucky. I felt like I was living in a lie. Yes, my room was big now. I had new clothes, a smartphone, even my own tutor. But everywhere I went, people stared at me like I was some story they had read, not a real girl. The news said I had been rescued. But what about the woman who raised me? The one they took me from? What about Mama Ada? One morning, I woke up to a message from someone in my new school. Maid girl thinks she's rich now. She'll always smell like poverty. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Was this how people saw me? Later that day in the hallway, some girls whispered as I passed. One of them dropped a folded paper on my desk during class. It read, "You don't belong here." I blinked back tears. That night, Madam, my real mother, sat beside me on the couch. "You've been quiet lately," she said gently. I nodded but didn't speak. She continued, "It's okay to miss her." I turned toward her. "They're calling her a criminal."
But she raised me.
She fed me when I was sick. She made me feel safe. Madam sighed. "I know." Then the phone rang. It was the police. They had arrested Mama Ada. The world around me spun. They said she was involved in child trafficking, Madam whispered. Someone reported her. I stood up. "She didn't steal me. She saved me. We have to go." We got to the station by evening. The place smelled of sweat and dust. I saw Mama Ada through a small glass window. Her hands were in cuffs. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "Mirabel," she said softly. I ran to the glass. "Why did they arrest you?" She shook her head slowly. "Some people don't want the truth, my child. They just want silence." But we told the truth. We gave them the DNA test. She smiled sadly. "I told you, some people don't care about the truth. Especially powerful people." Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I held onto the necklace Mama Ada had once given me. It had a small locket. I'd never opened it before. This time I did. Inside was a folded piece of old paper. It was a letter. "If they ever come for you, find Dr. Hassan at Unity Memorial. He knows what happened the night you were born. You were never supposed to survive." Grace. I read the letter again and again. Who was Grace? What did she mean by never supposed to survive? I ran to Madam's room. "Do you know anyone named Grace?" I asked. She froze. Then she whispered, "Grace was the nurse who delivered you." My heart dropped. "She's the one who handed me to Mama Ada, isn't she?" Madam nodded. "We never saw her again." I showed her the letter. "Dr. Hassan, he's retired now," Madam said. "But he worked in the hospital where you were born." "Then we need to find him," I said. The next morning, as we sat in Madam's car, I watched the world fly past the window. I wasn't just a poor girl anymore. And I wasn't just a billionaire's daughter either. I was something more. Something people were afraid of. We found Unity Memorial Hospital, quiet and worn down. A nurse led us to a back room where an old man sat reading. "Dr. Hassan?" Madam asked. He looked up slowly. "Yes." She stepped forward. "This is my daughter. She was born 14 years ago. But she was taken." Dr. Hassan studied me. Then his face turned pale. "I remember," he whispered. "I was there the night she was born." He looked at Madam. "You had complications. And the child's father was not your husband." Madam's lips parted, but no words came. Dr. Hassan continued. "Chief Adewale was furious. He said the baby could not be his and he didn't want his name tied to scandal." "What did he do?" I asked, my voice trembling. Dr. Hassan looked at me. He told Nurse Grace to take the baby away, to make sure no one ever found her. Madam covered her mouth in shock. He did this?" Dr. Hassan nodded. Grace couldn't follow those orders. She handed the baby to a poor woman nearby, someone she trusted. That woman was Mama Ada. I felt like I couldn't breathe. All this time, I thought I was unwanted. But the truth was even darker. I was erased. As we left the hospital, Madam held my hand tightly. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know. I let them tell me you had died. I didn't ask questions. I didn't reply. My heart was heavy, but my mind was clear. They took my name. They stole my life. They tried to bury the truth. But I found it. And now, the world will hear me. They didn't just hide me. They tried to erase me." That's what kept ringing in my head after we left the hospital. I was no longer just the maid-turned-millionaire daughter. I was a secret someone didn't want alive. Madam sat in the front seat of the car, holding the steering wheel with shaking hands. I sat in the back, watching the city lights blur past. Everything felt strange, even the air. After a long silence, I asked quietly, "Was it true?" Madam didn't look back. Her voice was low. "Yes. Before I married Chief Adewale, I was in love with someone else. His name was Chuka. I got pregnant. My parents forced me to marry Chief to cover it up." My heart thudded. "So Chief knew I wasn't his?" She nodded. "He was angry. He said he didn't want to raise a child that wasn't his. When I went into labor early, I was unconscious. And when I woke up, they told me the baby died." Her voice broke. I believed them. "I mourned you for years." I leaned back in my seat. So I was never truly lost. I was thrown away. And the woman who was supposed to be my mother was told I was dead. But someone, Nurse Grace, saved me. She gave me to Mama Ada, the woman who raised me with nothing but love. The next day, everything changed. Madam held a press conference. She told the truth. About me. About Chief. About everything. Some people didn't believe it. Some did. But I didn't care. Because now, I had nothing to hide. When the reporters asked where Chief Adewale was, nobody could answer. He had disappeared. Some said he left the country. Others said he was hiding from shame. Later that week, we went to the courthouse. Madam stood in front of the judge and told them she wanted all charges against Mama Ada dropped. "She may have broken the law," Madam said, "but she also saved my daughter. She gave her a life when we took it away." I stood beside her, holding her hand. Mama Ada was brought into the courtroom, looking weak and scared. But when she saw me, she smiled. A real smile. The judge paused, then said, "Due to the circumstances, the court will release her." I ran to her as she stepped out. We held each other tight. She smelled like smoke and pepper soup and old wrappers and home. That night, we all sat in the same house, Madam, Mama Ada, and me. It was strange. One woman gave me life. The other gave me love. And now, they were sitting across from each other, in silence. Finally, Mama Ada spoke. "I never meant to steal her. I just didn't know what to do." Madam nodded slowly. "And I never meant to lose her. But I let them lie to me." They looked at each other. And something passed between them. Not friendship, not forgiveness, but something like understanding. Weeks passed. The world moved on. People stopped talking. New stories replaced mine. And I finally had peace. One evening, I stood outside, near the water tank behind the house. I looked at my reflection. I wasn't just Mirabel anymore. And I wasn't only a Maka Adewale. I was both. I had my village. I had my city. I had my scars and my strength. At school, things changed too. Some people still whispered. Some still stared. But others came to me with new eyes. "I read your story," one girl said. "It gave me courage to speak up too." Another whispered, "You're so strong. I wish I could be like you." I just smiled. I wasn't trying to be strong. I was just trying to be me. Madam let me choose a new name. I thought about it. Then I said, Mirabel Amaka Chukadawale. Mirabel, for the girl who grew up with yam and rain in the village. Amaka for the daughter who was born in pain, but not forgotten. Shuka for the father I never met. Adewale for the family who tried, failed, and still gave me a chance. At the school speech contest, I stood on stage. The lights were bright. The microphone shook in my hand, but my voice did not. I said, "They said I was a miracle, but I'm not. I'm just a girl who was hidden and found. They tried to bury me, but I grew, because love, not blood, is what makes a person whole." I saw them in the crowd. Madam in her lace gown, Mama Ada in her faded wrapper, sitting side by side. They smiled at me, and for the first time, I smiled too.